You know, a funny thing happened to me on the way to my program. That's an old joke. A funny thing happened to me on the way to the theater today. It's an old standard double entendre joke. But a funny thing happened to me on the way to my subject today, which was I accidentally looked on a website and it said Chris Christie official portrait to cost a whopping $85,000. So the natural thought was, is it because of the extra paint that's required around the midsection? Why $85,000 for an official portrait, I wondered. And then I saw some sound bites of Robert De Niro. Man, is this guy getting... His menopausal symptoms are just getting worse? Or is there something he can take? Isn't there something this guy can take? I never knew he was like this. Robert De Niro used to be sort of a movie star hero. He's gone from a raging bull to a bullying fool. In the following flashback, he's doing a film festival in New York that used to be somewhat of a respectable film festival. And now he goes crazy again with the symptoms of menopause. There is male menopause, by the way. And somebody ought to tell him there's treatment for these diseases, these conditions today, that he doesn't have to suffer through this. There are treatments for this kind of condition for male menopause. Robert, you don't have to suffer like this. Listen to 09.
Well, I was talking to Lauren, and he said if there's anything you want to, anything you can think about that you'd play. I said, well, she said, so I spoke to my wife, and she said, why don't you play Mueller? I told him, Mueller, how about Mueller? And that's how it came down.
Is this going to become a recurring thing, or is this a one and done?
I don't know. I hope there's a couple where I interrogate him, then I arrest him, and then I escort him to jail.
You mean Trump?
Yeah, who do you think I mean?
Well, I don't know. I'm just making sure. Just
no, not Cohen. Him too, but okay. Trump definitely, yes. Can I make it any clearer?
Yeah, no.
That's very good. There's NBC again, letting this poor old man who's showing signs of presenile dementia, in my estimation. You know, when an actor has political views, it's nice for them to keep them to themselves, since we only want them to fake their lives on stage and on screen. But it's every day now. So, as I say, he's gone from a raging bull to a bullying fool. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. Here's what I wanted to talk about, which is what I am going to talk about. No, this is not it either. This caught me by surprise as well. De Blasio, the commie mayor of New York City, he secretly is building a homeless shelter on Billionaires Row near 57th Street. And you say, well, good, let's screw the billionaires. Well, don't be so quick to judge, because angry residents and shopkeepers and restaurant owners booed and whined about putting these bums in their neighborhood. And these are middle-class people who have lived there most of their lives. West 58th Street is the billionaire's backyard, but it's the front yard of middle-class families with children and senior citizens, said David Atchelis, who has lived in the neighborhood for 40 of his 67 years. Listen to what happened. The project was started, he said, extremely secretively months ago with no work permits or an environmental impact study, Silverstein said. So this is what communists do. This is how de Blasio will destroy that neighborhood. But that's not what I was going to talk about today. I just wanted to get that out of the way so I can have a clear schedule here. Okay, so I put on my Twitter feed last night, what do you want for me to talk about each day to millions of people? It was a follow-up from my show yesterday where I said, what would my great-grandfather, who I never met, want for me to talk about today to millions of people? Many of you related to that. You loved it. And you said, you know, you're not the only one who imagines you're talking to your ancestors. And I explained to you that there are many totems and primitive societies which contain the carvings of various ancestors in the totem as a prior incarnation in physical anthropology. I have studied this. I have collections of these such totems. But nevertheless, it's you. What do you want for me to talk about each day to millions of people? So I went on this, and people wrote, let's see, Benghazi, the meeting with Trump and Abiy about military trade with North Korea, about the uprising in California against their tyrannical state government, why kids are killing kids. We had guns around for many years. Why the past decade till the present? Is it happening now? Is it no more family unit and the fundamentals of parenting being out the window? Ann Kelly said the ongoing genocide against white South Africans. Years ago, you were the first major U.S. media figure to report on it. I love you for it. Yes, the blacks in South Africa are conducting genocide against white farmers. But that won't make it to NBC. That's not a topic for Robert De Niro, because it has nothing to do with Trump. Greg Lauer says, how we are being tricked by the globalists and the media. Charles Carroll says, Savage, talk about the most bioavailable vitamin C. I got a lot of inquiries about nutrition, strangely enough. Mix it up, health-related topics, history, the environment, politics. I like when you read headlines and comment on them. I love hearing your stories. Borders, language, culture. Let's see. Cryptocurrency and what effect it has on politics, economy. Jeff says, Dr. Savage, the Stradivarius. I love your philosophy and bring back the caps. I love how it gets under people's skin. Tennessee reacting against Memphis's removal of the Civil War statues. Elizabeth D'Ambrosio says, nutrition. My husband had one of your books on health and on Audible in his car. As a cancer survivor who reads a ton on nutrition and cancer prevention, you had all the right info and I learned so much. Jack says, God in early American history. And please, no psychics like yesterday. Jennifer W. says, Savage, you answered it in your show today, meaning yesterday. If you speak from the heart, people will listen. We appreciate your common sense, wisdom, and nature of your storytelling. Speak your convictions and also Teddy stories. Jennifer W. says, be careful with the psychic. He's just intuitive. Your listeners could derive the same info. Ask him where his knowledge derives from. Ask who is his master. If not God in heaven, run. Only one truly knows what is, what has been, and what is to come, but you know that. I'm reading to you what people want me to talk about. I'm turning it over to you today. Harry Scarano says, I like to hear of your early botany research forays to faraway places and how those experiences shaped you into who you are today. Woman writes, Borders, language, culture. Let's see, health, nutritional, spiritual, national. How to stop Islam. As long as it is considered a religion, it is untouchable. Somehow or another, the religious designation must be removed. It is ruining Europe and setting its sights on Australia and America. Michael, talk about Haley until Trump kicks her off the island. Oh, no kidding. Let's see. How deep is the deep state and what it would take to bring it down? Explain to us why every president prior to Trump received college or pro athletic teams at the White House who gave the president a jersey with his presidential number on it, Bush 43, Obama 44. But Donald Trump received jerseys from the Astros and Crimson Tide with number 17. Parzival says, tell us about the great New York pizza back in the late 50s and early 60s. That's very funny. Raymond Gillis says, politics, food, health, and past and present life happenings where your heart, mind, and soul leads you. Your voice is a reassuring one that makes us feel that everything will be okay. Savage, please keep up the good work. Anything but politics, please. History, I love learning stuff I had no idea about. Philosophy, history, God, dog stories, Savage high school and college stories, lunatics on San Francisco street stories, alcohol stories. Please talk about Teddy. I love your Teddy stories. They make me smile. Something I could use today. I'm sickened by what has become of our beautiful country and culture. Seems the world is upside down and gone crazy. Food and health, health and nutrition. Anything, Savage, you're brilliant, and I learned from you daily, says Joy. Thank you for your years of great radio. God bless you. Well, is there anything that we're not hearing here? Tell them about Soros and the globalists. Oh, God. Again, Soros. Healthy eating. Stories about the wall banger, drywall installer, Teddy. Troublemakers at Starbucks. Why are our brave soldiers dying overseas in Iraq, Afghanistan? Deep state. I don't know if does any of this appeal to you? The foreign aid we give and the budgets of those countries? God's word. Talk about how Bush was warned about 9/11 and did nothing. How to get a Republican governor elected in California. Life, art, peace. Well, there's a lot of good ideas here, by the way. Zombie Dog says, I heard this guy on the radio talking about language, borders, and culture. And some of these topics I've never heard of. Think you should do a Dr. Phil show, a PhD doctor show. That's not bad. Maybe one day I'll do that, like on a Saturday night, and sell vitamins. What would your great-grandfather say? He would say, Michael, forget about what other people say and remember Yosef. Yosef was hated by his own brothers, sold into slavery, put in prison, forgotten but always remained faithful to the teachings of his fathers. In the end, they saved many. That's interesting. Talk about nutrition, life in San Francisco, the TV shows you watch, and reading and commenting on the mixed connections relationship ads on Craigslist. I thought Craigslist is out of business. Are they still in? I thought they were closed down by the FBI. Mixed connections or missed connections? No, they're the funniest things. I used to read them on the missed connections on Craigslist. You see the nuts, how people are crazy and lonely. It's like guys have no nerve to ask a girl. This is even before the Me Too movement. Guys had lost their guts. They couldn't even go up and say anything to a woman. So they'd stand on a line. I remember this. Let's say they're on a line in a coffee shop, and they're looking at someone. She don't know he's looking at her. So the guy goes home, and he puts an ad on Craigslist, missed connections the next day, which says, to you who was wearing blue jeans and a pink top in Starbucks yesterday at 11:30 a.m., my heart was beating so hard I almost came up to you, but I could not. Can we meet again? Now, what girl would meet a guy like that? Dr. Savage, I've tuned in every day for the past 7 years because you're a gifted voice of the spoken word. If your show ain't broke it, don't fix it. My only selfish concern is if you decide to leave radio. They like nostalgia. People want me to do nostalgia. Savage, talk about Andrew Cuomo giving voter rights to parolees. It's very simple, Kate. The taxpayers don't like the bum, so he's got to go to the criminals to get the votes now. He's got the illegals, so he may as well add the felons to it. Taxpayers don't like him. Ray Lally says, talk about Frito. The Constitution. What else do you want me to talk about? Build the wall, keep pushing them, battle, save us sovereignty, your latest book, Teddy Jaguars and Dead Man's Pants. That's interesting. I enjoy hearing you talk about your battle with pot as a youth. Libs think it's actually quite healthy. Tell us your experiences. I could do a whole segment on that. Marijuana is the most dangerous of all drugs, but I don't want to do that right now. Abortion. I like when you comment on current events. The lost art of correctly making a meatball. That's not a bad one. People think it's funny. If you look at Sweden, why do you think they're called Swedish meatballs? Socialist nation gave rise to the Swedish meatball. It's small. It has no taste, and it's hard. That's a Swedish meatball. That's what socialism does even to a meatball. Now compare that to a meatball in Little Italy, even to this day, where there's sort of a feeling of anarchy. Large, fluffy, flavorful. Well, that's what I'm going to talk about today, these topics and more. I mean, of course I'll do the news, views, and reviews, because the government secretly is trying to do remote control on you. Did you see that story? Homeland Security accidentally released records on remote mind control in response to a journalist's standard Freedom of Information Act request for records on Antifa and white supremacist groups. The Washington State Fusion Center reportedly released a file containing records on remote mind control techniques, and it shows diagrams detailing the horrors of psychoelectronic weapons effects. And one diagram lists the various forms of torment supposedly made possible by using remote mind control methods. Forced memory blanking, sudden violent itching inside eyelids, remotely induced forced orgasm. It's crazy. I mean, people believe this stuff? It sounds like the average American, twitching eyes. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Beets are one of the superfoods of the world. There's so much I can tell you about it, but let me just tell you about nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is one of the most important molecules in your body. It promotes healthy circulation, which gets the oxygen and nutrients flowing throughout your body, and it helps support healthy blood pressure. And you can help your body produce nitric oxide naturally by drinking Super Beets. Only Super Beets is made from beets grown to exacting standards, and the nutrients in the beets are concentrated in a way that makes them usable to the body to create nitric oxide safely and naturally. If you want to increase your body's nitric oxide levels, and you should, believe me, simply call 800-481-0504, 800-481-0504, or go to SavageLovesBeets.com. And listen to me. With your first Super Beets order, get another 30-day supply for free, plus free indicator strips to see how Super Beets actually work in your body, and free shipping. You can't beat it. Try it. 800-481-0504, 800-481-0504, or go to savagelovesbeats.com. Exciting news. Simply Safe Home Security just released their brand new home security system. It's the all-new Simply Safe. Now listen, this system has been completely rebuilt and redesigned. They've added new safeguards to protect against power outages, downed Wi-Fi, cut landlines, bats, hammers, and everything in between. The all-new Simply Safe was redesigned to be practically invisible with powerful sensors so small you'll hardly notice them. You know who will notice them? Intruders. Simply Safe spent years building the system. They added so much, but you still get the same fair and honest price. 24/7 protection for only $15 a month. And with Simply Safe, there are no long-term contracts. You can't beat it. This new system is smaller, faster, and stronger than anything they've built before. But listen, supply is very limited. Go to simplysafesavage.com now to order that system. You heard me. That's simplysafesavage.com, SIMPLI, safesavage.com, to protect your home and family right now. simplysafesavage.com. So I'm getting ready for my trip to Washington, D.C. I just got a confirmation of a few meetings which I cannot tell you about, and a few meetings I can tell you about that would be of interest to a general audience, because people are so jealous and so hateful that you can't disclose certain things. But, I mean, I am dining in the congressional dining room next week, which is going to be a lot of fun for me. I was there once, you know when? Well, I'm radio 24 years. About 20 years ago, we had a congressman, a Republican, if you can still believe it, named was Sonny and Cher, Sonny Bono, great guy. And Sonny invited me to Washington. I was a younger talk show host on one station, KSFO. And it was a big deal. We had a revolution. We had a Republican congressman. At least there was a two-party system at the time before the mafia took it over, before the left-wing foreign mafia took over the state and implanted all of these goons. And he invited me to Washington. I remember going into the congressional dining room distinctly to this day, having lunch. It was very exciting for me. Remember that. You may take it for granted and say, what's the big deal? It's a very big deal for me, coming from my background, to be in a dining room. So the long and short was I was then invited to a meeting with the congressional leader at the time, who I do not remember. And he had a meeting in front of me and maybe one or two other talk shows I don't remember. And he was giving them a pep talk, all the congressmen. And here's what he said to them. He said, listen to me, boys. You either do what we want you to do, and you either vote the way we want you to vote, or you're going to be thrown out, and it's very cold outside. That's all I can tell you. I never forgot that. So you should know that politics is not easy for a lot of these people, and that you lose a lot of your independence unless you're at the top of the pyramid, whether it's in Congress, as a congressman, or in the Senate. You're just going to lose a lot of your independence. Look what happened to that comedian who was retired from Saturday Night Live. He became a stooge, a yes man. There's much more freedom for commentators than there is for politicians. So it's very easy for us to sit here and put them down, but it doesn't mean that they're devoid of integrity. It means they're locked in a system where they cannot express themselves as freely as we can, for example, in the media.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE.
Ladies and gentlemen, sure, you could have harsh treatments to look younger, but why on earth would you do that? Listen to Joanne from Connecticut. She says, my husband looks 10 years younger using Genucel. He saw results the first day he used it. I've also had remarkable results, can't be without it. Imagine the bags and puffiness under your eyes gone, and watch those sagging, droopy eyelids disappear. That's years off your appearance. Genucel by Chamonix is an easy choice. Genucel contains natural ingredients for incredible results safely and quickly. It's as simple as that. In fact, with immediate effects, you will see results like Joanne's in as little as 12 hours, or you get your money back guaranteed. And right now, perfect time, try Chamonix's brand new Genucel Eyelid Lift for droopy, sagging eyelids. You order Genucel today, and you get the brand new Genucel Eyelid Lift absolutely free. So go to Genucel.com. That's Genucel.com, or 800-SKIN-891, 800-SKIN-891, 800-SKIN-891. Call now, express shipping also free. Go ahead, 800-SKIN-891, 800-SKIN-891, or go to Genucel.com. That's Genucel.com. People have sent to me by Twitter, and we're talking about the news as well. And there's a lot of news out there, but don't expect me to get excited about Comey and Mueller and forget about it. Are you kidding me? Is that my business? Is that my business to spend my inheritance, my mental inheritance, talking about Mueller and Comey? I'm not going to do it. I told you that. If you want to hear it, there's ample places for you to hear it, along with the sound of nails being driven into wallboard. You can get to hear all you want about Comey and all sorts of conspiracies. Marilyn on KSFO line 4. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Michael. I want to tell you about the most beautiful, magical moment of radio. Some years back, I was driving across the Golden Gate Bridge. It was an October day, around 4 o'clock. The sun was just setting. The city looked like a jewel, and you played Pagliacci, sung by Pavarotti. Now, the side of the city, the bridge looked golden. The music was awesome. I
always loved Pagliacci because we're all a clown. That was my whole point. Every man is a clown at a certain point, whether it's in his work or in his marriage or in his relationships with women or even his relationship to God or even what he thinks of himself behind closed doors. Every man is a clown, which is why that opera has such universal appeal.
Well, it was a God-inspiring moment of radio, and I just wanted to thank you for doing it that day, and I love the times that you play the beautiful music.
All right. That's very sweet of you, Marilyn. I appreciate that. There's nothing I can add to that. I didn't write Pagliacci. Just there's a little bit of Pagliacci in all of us. We just didn't think that Pagliacci would appear in so quickly in De Niro's character and take over so completely. I mean, he started doing comedies later on in his life to save his career, but we thought that was just to save his career. We didn't really know that the Pagliacci within was going to come out and replace the De Niro that we thought was existent. Sad what happens to a man as he gets older and his body starts to fall apart and the testosterone levels go down. You know, he sounds probably like a grandmother sitting there on the street with a folding chair complaining about Donald Trump every day. But that's not what I want to talk about. I just don't want to sit here and put people down. That's not fun. That's negative. I could do positive. You want me to do positive? I don't even want to do positive. I don't want to do positive. I don't want to do negative. I want to zig. I want to zag. I don't want to hit things head on. I don't want to go head on. I want to go side, left, right, whatever the topic may be. PhD at Stanford, line 1. Ryan on KSFO. What's your call about today, Ryan?
Dr. Savage, first of all, thank you so much for taking my call. I was listening to the show yesterday, and I typically listen to your shows either streaming or after the fact online, as I think many people like myself do. And I heard a PhD call in, and you mentioned you're not sure how many people of that stature actually listen to your show. And I just want to say, I personally have been listening to your show nearly daily for 2 years. I think as a PhD student in the Bay Area, I kind of look up to you because you went through this exact same process. And
now, what process do you mean?
Sorry.
Tell me about the process you're referring to. Ryan, what is the process you're referring to?
So coming up in the Bay Area, a place that's like super crazy, far left wing, it's difficult making it these days as a white guy in the Bay Area. I mean, if you...
I was going to ask you if that's what you're experiencing is racism towards you and your friends with PhDs from a great university, replacing you with idiots who couldn't hold a candle to you, who are becoming your bosses, not based upon qualifications, but based upon race. That's what you're talking about, isn't it? All the postdocs, all the positions, all the awards, all the doors are opening except to everyone but a white male. And if they keep it up, the society will destroy itself altogether. You want me to talk about that? It's very clear what's going on. But again, it'll make me angry, and I don't want to get angry today. Not at all. KSFO, Susan, line 2, topic, please.
Hi, I was hoping that you might squeeze in a couple of comments about the marijuana. Tomorrow is 420, so don't go anywhere in your Golden Gate Park. Don't go get Chinese food. It's 420, a big pot day, and also we have had the change in legislation so that people do not have to have medical marijuana. If you could squeeze in any...
my feelings on marijuana are my own feelings, but I will say to you about the medical facts. The toxicants found in marijuana smoke are very well documented. The toxicants found in marijuana smoke exceed those found in cigarette smoke. Now, having said that, if idiots want to poison their brains, diminish their chances for success in life, good luck to them. Let them cull themselves from the herd. I don't really care. But if they want to spend a minute looking up the toxicants found in marijuana smoke, you'll find quite a long array. Now, so they'll say to me, well, I don't smoke marijuana. I imbibe it in a brownie. It's still impairing your brain. And so, it's your decision. I don't think you should be put in jail for smoking pot. But I think that to be sold a bill of goods that it is healthy for you is criminal. It will diminish your capacity, your mental capacities. And that's all there is to it. And I don't even want to talk about it any further. It's too late right now. And the man behind it, you're not going to believe it. I will tell you again. Who do you think it was who first funded the, quote, medical marijuana myth? It was George Soros, 1998, Arizona and California. I argue with one of his stooges on these airwaves, try to explain to them the damage it would do to our young people, how it would bring them into hard drugs, that marijuana is a stepping stone into the drug world, legal and illegal. It makes people addicted. It's an addictive drug. Everyone who's smoked it knows that. Ask any doctor working in an emergency room about the emergency cases that they're getting now from people who have imbibed marijuana and become hallucinogenic as a result of it. They themselves become hallucinations. There are so many dangers to this, and no one's talking about it. It's a gigantic mass hysteria of our time. The legalization of marijuana is one of the great mass hysterias of our time, which opens a door to another question to my wonderful, intelligent audience. If you were to list the top 5 hysterias of our time, what would they be? I mean, I can name 2 of them. The mass hysteria that marijuana is good for you. The mass hysteria that Donald Trump is the devil incarnate. What are the other mass hysterias of our time that you think are worthy of noting? Because it's a topic that's become of some interest to me. Now, I want to play some sound for you to show you the mass hysteria of fake news. There was a former chief of naval operations in Britain who went on to the communist British I almost said something else. The British Broadcasting Corporation. I almost didn't say British. I almost said something else. But I'm not a rap artist. The BBC told a former Navy chief not to even question the Syria narrative. Listen to how far the BBC has fallen with regard to fake news in clip 3.
President Assad is in the process of winning this civil war, and there, just before he goes in and takes it all over, apparently he decides to have a chemical attack. It just doesn't ring true. It seems extraordinary because clearly he would know that there's likely to be a response from the Allies. What benefit was there militarily in doing what he did? I find that extraordinary. We know that in the past some of the Islamic groups have used chemicals, and of course there would be huge benefit in them labelling an attack as coming from Assad. They would guess quite rightly that there'd be a response from the US, as there was last time, and possibly from the UK and France.
Given that we're in an information war with Russia on so many fronts, do you think perhaps it's inadvisable to be stating this so publicly, given your position and your profile? Isn't there a danger that you're muddying the waters?
Yeah, let's face it, if he hasn't done it, then that is extremely bad news. You know, if Assad hasn't carried out the attack, and I think it's just worth making that clear.
Did you hear what just went on in this soundbite? You should never forget this. This is Admiral Lord West, former Chief of Naval Services for the nation of Britain. And here's a BBC anchor, some low-life leftist propagandists saying, given that we're in information war with Russia on so many fronts, you think it's inadvisable to be stating this publicly? Isn't there a danger that you're muddying the waters? In other words, we don't want truth on the BBC. We want straight propaganda around the clock. Now, if you think that it's any different here at NBC or CBS or NBC or any of the others, you are mistaken. There is no evidence of chemical weapon attack in Douma from Assad. So far, no one has come up with it, any more than they've come up with any proof that Trump colluded with Russia. They've come up with no proof that Assad himself, meaning his military, launched that chemical attack, or that there was actually a chemical attack. No proof whatsoever. It's a gigantic propaganda show from the New World Order that wants Syria to be struck again and to be taken over and divided up into 3 or 4 portions. Former UK ambassador to Syria, Peter Ford, said, possible we're deluded and suckered by chemical weapons allegations. Democrat Senator Bar Menendez says, I wonder if the Syria strikes were choreographed and a kabuki show. Did you hear what I just said? People are starting to understand that this whole lie about Assad gassing his own people was nothing but a false flag, as I first reported. This is the savage nation trying to get to the bottom of things. And again, the phone number is 855-400-7282. What do you want me to talk about each day to millions of people? What are the biggest mass hysterias of our time? I saw another article that's a little tricky for you to read without misinterpreting me. But I saw it in the New York Post this morning, and I jumped on it. Doctor who gave Asperger's syndrome its name was kid killer for Hitler. I said, what? And I read, the Austrian doctor for whom Asperger's syndrome is named helped the Nazis kill disabled children during World War II, according to a study published today. Hans Asperger, a pediatrician who first identified the syndrome in 1944, made good with the Nazis by referring children to one of their notorious euthanasia clinics. Medical University of Vienna medical historian Herwig Czech revealed in the journal Molecular Autism, nearly 800 children who didn't fit into the Third Reich's criteria of worthy to live, meaning they lacked racial purity and hereditary worthiness, I'm quoting now, died at the Am Spiegelgrund Clinic in Vienna between 1940 and 1945. Asperger frequently referred disabled children to the clinic. Those who had physical or psychological defects, so-called, were deemed undesirable and were killed through starvation and lethal injection, though their cause of death was reported as pneumonia. I'm going to read more of this to you because this is a blockbuster discovery if it is true. Back on the Savage Nation in a minute.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Do you have trouble sleeping like most people do? I'm here to change your sleeping patterns forever. I myself have never slept better since I started using MyPillow. I would toss and turn all night and never feel fully rested, but that's all changed once I discovered MyPillow the way I like it. MyPillow uses a patented technology that morphs perfectly to the type of sleeper you are. You create the pillow that's right for you, right on their own website. It's amazing, and of course it's all manufactured right here in the United States and comes with a 10-year warranty. You can wash and dry MyPillow, and the best part is you get a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. I want you to go to MyPillow.com or call 800-768-0898, promo code SAVAGE. Take advantage of my special 4-pack deal. Buy 2 premium MyPillows, and you're going to get 2 Go-Anywhere pillows for free. Rush to MyPillow.com or call 800-768-0898, promo code SAVAGE, to take advantage of my special 4-pack. Everyone seems to be warning you about a potential stock market collapse. What if it never comes? What if betting against the market is a bad idea? Truth is, our nation appears to be getting stronger by the day, not weaker. And so what if the market makes a big correction? It always recovers, right? Well, this topic is covered in a very special report from Swiss America. It's called the Crashless Society. In this remarkable free report, you'll discover how to connect the dots and find out about the hidden pluses and minuses of today's rising economic optimism. Get it for free. All you got to do is call 800-289-2646. Are you worried about your retirement account? Stop worrying. Start planning for the best years of your life. Thanks to the Crashless Society, yours free right now by calling 800-289-2646. Write it down. And remember, even during a big correction, some people seem to do very well. You know how they do it? Call 800-289-2646. Maybe it could be you. Discover how. Get the Crashless Society for free. Call it 800-289-2646. Welcome back to the Savage Nation with no lead-in, no hint that I'm even back, but I just found that I'm back, which is nice. And I want to tell you something. If it wasn't for going to sleep at night, I don't think I could do this show, and that's the truth. I'm a great sleeper. And if you think I'm kidding you, it's the Casper mattress that I use. And this Casper mattress is done because the engineers have outdone themselves by creating 3 different kind of mattresses, and they have different names. One is the Wave mattress, the other is the Casper mattress, and the other is the Essential mattress, and they're all different. Now, all Casper mattresses are designed with zone support to coddle and comfort your every move, and they all provide the perfect support for every position that you might sleep in, right? Why don't you see for yourself why Casper has hundreds of thousands of happy customers like me? Try your Casper mattress for 100 nights in your own home with free shipping and returns. Simply go to Casper.com and use code SAVAGE to save $50 on the purchase of select mattresses. Did you get that? That's Casper.com, code SAVAGE to save $50. Terms and conditions apply. See site for details on these 3 unique mattresses. You can't do any better than that. Now, I'm going back to the topic that I raised, which is the mass hysterias of our time. And I've told you what I think some of them are. One is the Trump hysteria as exemplified not only by everyone in the media, but by Robert De Niro. There's a hysteria there. I don't know whether it's genetic or hormonal, but there's an hysteria in these people in their statements about him. But what are the other mass hysterias of our time that you think of? WTMA in South Carolina. Paul, line 4, go ahead, please. What is it in your mind?
I think there are, well, several, but 2 that come to my mind is gender fluidity. No one has a gender anymore. Today I feel like a woman. Tomorrow I might feel like asexual.
Yeah, this is part of the propaganda of a very tiny segment of the population that has gotten control of psychology and of the media. The fact of the matter is, as most psychiatrists know, and as most people who are sane on the planet know, there are only 2 genders, male and female. There are people who are males who feel more female than most males, and there are females who feel more male than most females, but they're still females and they're still males. It's that simple. Everyone knows that. But we're living in an age of relativity where there are no confirmed truths anymore. And that is why you can have pure dummies teaching at a university, people who in not so long ago wouldn't have been able to teach how to pick up dog droppings in a veterinarian clinic, are now professors of English teaching that Barbara Bush is a racist, for example, at Fresno State. I'm giving you another example of, as a result of the fact that everything is seen to be subjective in order to confuse the population so that children can be molested on a more regular basis. This is why the society is melting down. It all comes from those with unlimited sexual control issues. They have taken over virtually every avenue of science to do with the subject, medicine, and the media, and they're lying to the people. Ask any psychiatrist who really knows what's going on. Ask any biologist. Or if you can't find a scientist or biologist, take a look at your dog the next time you have a minute. The dog is not confused about its sexuality. Why then is the human species the only species confused about its sexuality?
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Things are going to go well. Don't worry about a thing. But that's the way it is. I've got to make myself see things as they really are, as opposed to the way the media tries to present them. And I don't see things as terrible as Robert De Niro does. I think that's a form of hysteria. In fact, I know it's a form of hysteria. It's a madness. It's a madness that's probably generated a lot by aging hormones, which a lot of female hormones are probably overtaking the male hormones in him to make him think like that. That would be my analysis. He sounds like an hysterical old woman. Wants to arrest Trump, wants to lock Trump up. This is astounding, but this is what's going on. It's one of the hysterias of our time. But I've asked you, what are the other hysterias of our time? And I've gotten some great calls on that. I have also asked you what you would like me to talk about, and I've gotten great responses to that on my Twitter feed where information comes to me. And I played you some sound bites that are pretty interesting if you missed them. One was the former chief of naval operations for Britain, Admiral Lord West, who said that it makes no sense for Assad to have gone in and released a chemical attack on his own citizens. He said it doesn't ring true. And astonishingly, the BBC anchor says, given that we're in an information war with Russia, do you think perhaps it's inadvisable to be stating this so publicly, given your position and your profile? Isn't there a danger that you're muddying the waters? If you don't know what propaganda is, you just heard what propaganda is. And if you think the stooges on our networks are any different than that twit on the BBC, you're mistaken. But let's go back to the topics at hand. And if that's not interesting enough for you, there's this other story which is a little weird. Homeland Security accidentally releases records on remote mind control through electronic pulses and what it does to human beings. Forced memory blanking, sudden violent itching inside eyelids, forced manipulation of airways, wildly racing heart without cause, forced muscle quaking of the large muscles on the back, forced nudging of arm during delicate or messy work, causing this sounds crazy to me. Special attention to genital area, itching, forced orgasm, intense pain, hot needles pushed deep into flesh in the legs, hard to reach itch site, top and bottom. You could believe this. You could believe anything. You could blame all your symptoms now that the government's hitting you with psychoelectronic weapons. You know, this is going to feed right into the nuts out there. But it's an interesting article that came out. Truthfully, I think it could be done. I think this is certainly possible. And since I'm going to Washington next week, if I come back twitching and scratching, you'll know that it's true. But, you know, I am going to be in Washington next week, and I got a call during the break. Of course, I can't disclose exactly what it's about. Let me put it to you this way. You're going to be quite surprised what I have to report when I get back on the air at the end of the week next week. I'll be on the air Monday from Washington, D.C. Tuesday, I have the very important French state event. Big deal. I'm so honored to have been invited. And Wednesday, I'm going to a lot of meetings, tremendous number of meetings, including lunch in the Congressional Dining Room with some great people. And then I'm trying to get to the Air and Space Museum. I was only there once 20 years ago, and as a kid who used to build model planes, that is one of the most favorite museums of mine in the world, not just seeing the Wright brothers plane, but naval jets and whatnot. And I'm going to be given a backstage tour, which is a big deal for me, because I'm still the kid who makes models. I tinker with engines. I love cars, and certainly I love airplanes, especially from an earlier era, which were simpler and easier for a guy like me who tinkers with cars to understand. So that's next week, and that should be an amazing week for me. But look, if I have controlled dreams, artificial tinnitus, forced movement of the jaw, and clacking of the teeth while talking to the top officials of the government, if I get a forced manipulation of my airwaves, including externally controlled forced speech, or forced muscle quaking of the large muscles in the back, I'll let you know about it. I will let you know the minute that starts to happen. I don't think it's going to happen, truthfully. But I'm going to assume, by the way, I'm going to tell you right now, and I've got to tell you this, you know, I've written spy novels, 3 of them. The Jack Hatfield character. They'd be great Netflix movies. They'd be great Apple movies. They'd be great Amazon movies. But I was told today that none of these books can be turned into movies because of the structure of making a movie in Hollywood today, or even in these other outlets. You have to bring a production team. You have to bring a star. I'm only a writer. I'm nothing more than that. So you're never going to see Jack Hatfield on screen. It's a shame because they'd make for great Apple movies, wouldn't they? But I'm not connected. I mean, if my cousin was Steven Spielberg or Hatzenberg or Matzenberg or Ratzenberg, you would see it on the big screen. But now you can only buy Abuse of Power and the other 3 series in the Hatfield books. Oh, I forgot to tell you this. You're going to be very happy, those of you who believe in God. They said it couldn't be done. They said it wouldn't be done. They said no one would publish it. No mainstream publisher would touch it. Okay, so last year I published God, Faith, and Reason, right? And it was a deal with my publisher that if I did Trump's War, they would have to publish God, Faith, and Reason. They agreed to it based on me saying that blah, blah, blah. So I figured that God, Faith, and Reason at the most would sell 20,000 in hardcover, pushing it on my show, because you know I wasn't allowed on Fox News because of Wallbanger's jealousy. And I never saw such competition in my life. You know, you got people with more money than God, with more power than God, and they don't want anyone on there who can compete with them in any way. It's sickening, actually, especially when they pose themselves as fair and balanced. But I'm not complaining. God, Faith, and Reason I thought would sell 20,000 hardcover, total. I finally got the numbers an hour before the show, and I could disclose to you that in total sales of that book, there were 80,000 books sold so far, and there's no paperback yet. This is a huge, gigantic story that should be broadcast throughout the media, that America is interested in God, that America bought Michael Savage's God, Faith, and Reason book, that it was peppered with quotations from the Old Testament. Everybody should understand there's a huge interest in faith and in God in America. But I'm not the Molochs who control the media. The Molochs are the gods unto themselves. They're the demigods. And they don't want to compete. They don't want God to compete with them. And so all I can say to you is thank you very much for buying that book. I wrote it for you to bring you back to your own faith, not to proselytize you. And I'll be very happy to tell you that I've started a sequel to it this last Sunday. That's right. I didn't plan it. I wasn't planning on it. But it started to come out of me when I got that picture of my great-grandfather. I started to have conversations with him, which I've recorded. And that'll be out. I don't know when. That's up to God. Actually, it's not up to me. I haven't sold it. I haven't pitched it. And it can only be my book. No one can steal it because it'll be my book or no one else's. So let's go back to the big topic of the day, which is what are the greatest hysterias of our time? Larry on KBET line 7, what's your topic? Go ahead, please.
Hello, am I on?
Yeah, you're on.
Okay. My thing was on the Syria strike.
Well, go ahead. So make your point already. Go.
I agree totally with you and Nigel Farage. It was totally unnecessary. But I think the reason if Trump did it is to prove to North Korea and Iran that he's serious. And
well, then I think we ought to bomb. I think we ought to bomb more nations to show that we're serious. Which other nation should we strike with weapons? Should we hit Jordan, maybe?
Well,
why not fire a few? Why not fire? Wait a minute. Hold it now. You're saying that Assad didn't gas his own people, but it was a good thing to do to threaten Iran and Russia. So why don't we also bomb Jordan? Send 80 missiles into Jordan.
Wow.
No, I mean you could send to Turkey also 70 or 100 missiles to threaten Erdogan. Why not? Why stop at Syria? Because it's a defenseless nation that can't fight back?
Good.
Why not just bomb every Arab nation to scare them? That would be very good for world affairs. No, I don't believe that it was a good thing to scare Russia and Iran by attacking a defenseless nation like Syria, especially since there's no evidence whatsoever that Assad gassed his own people. False flag, false flag, false flag. That's my opinion. And by the way, if the Lord of the Admiralty says that, I can say I'm in good company. I'm glad he stepped out and said it. Former Naval Chief of Operations says it doesn't make sense. I said it. I stepped out and said it before anyone else. So this is an interesting problem for me right now because I'm going to Washington. I'm going to meet two of the most important men in the world, one at a time. What do you think I'm going to say? What if they say to me, Savage, you're pretty tough on me when you got up there and said that these missile strikes were based on false evidence? What do you think I'm going to say? I'll tell you what I'm going to say. I'm going to say it's better to have a person who's a member of the loyal opposition who tells you the truth as to what he thinks based on the evidence than a yes man who tells you what you want to hear. Because if a man who is running things has only yes men around him, or her if she's running a corporation, she's liable to make some errors that she wouldn't make if she had individuals who came up and said, look, madam, I don't think this is correct, and here's the evidence why. She'd be a much better leader. Everybody knows that. Anybody could be a yes man. And that's the end of the story on that one. I'm going to tell it like it is. They know that, too. They know to expect that from me. Trump was once on this show way before he was president, 2016. He said, Michael, I've listened to your show for years on the radio here in New York, and I'm riding around in my limo. I get you on ABC. And he says to me, he said, you're the kind of guy who speaks what he thinks. He said, I really like that. Remember he said that? We have that soundbite somewhere. Well, hey, Casey Stengel, I call him like I see him. Someone's got to do it in the media, don't they? You got a lot of people who attacked him for a year straight, who backed Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is a great guy. Now, all of a sudden, they make believe that they want to shine his shoes for him every morning. It's unbelievable to me. But you can believe who you want to believe. I just got to push what I believe is to be true and stick to it. And at the end of the day, I think the truth shall set you free.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Technology makes a lot of things easier simply because everything is connected. Your cell phone connected to your tablet. Tablet is connected to your smart TV. And they're all connected to your Wi-Fi. Great. But it may only take one weak link in all those connections for criminals to get in. That's why new LifeLock identity theft protection now adds the power of Norton Security, which I use, by the way. While LifeLock uses proprietary technology to detect threats to your identity, like your info for sale on the dark web, the addition of Norton Security helps protect up to 5 of your devices from online threats like ransomware. And if there's a problem, LifeLock's agents will work to fix it. Of course, no one can prevent all identity theft or cybercrime or monitor all transactions at all businesses. But new LifeLock with Norton gives you more protection for today's connected world. I want you to join now and you'll get an additional 10% off your first year. Just head to LifeLock.com, enter promo code SAVAGE. That's LifeLock.com, promo code SAVAGE for an additional 10% off your first year. I suppose the topic that has emerged is the Syria strike, where the former Navy Chief of Operations of the BBC, Britain, said that there's no sense that Assad did it. Didn't make sense. And the BBC anchor says, how dare you say a thing like that? Isn't there a danger that you're muddying the waters by telling the truth, in other words? So it's a gigantic propaganda fest. We made a mistake. I'm positive Trump was pushed into it by Mustachio there, whatever his name is, Dalton. Mr. Dalton come along, and all of a sudden we're at war again. And the war party is in power, and this is a disaster for us. Stay out of foreign entanglements. Ask the veterans of foreign wars if they want another war. Ask the veterans of foreign wars if they want their sons to come back without legs or dead altogether over something going on in Syria where they've been killing each other for 1,000 years or more. No, I'm sorry, it's wrong and it's a lie. You're going to go to war, it's a very serious thing. John, WFNC in North Carolina disagrees. You're on the Savage Nation. Tell us why.
Yeah, Dr. Savage, I want to respectfully disagree with your opinion on the Syrian strike. I think it's a statement from the president towards Assad and other regimes that will use chemical weapons and violate.
Well, you're assuming that Assad used chemical weapons, aren't you? You're making an assumption.
There's some assumptions made there, yes. But I'd also like
well, wait. So it's a pretty big assumption to say, well, you use chemical weapons, even though some don't think you did, including the former chief of naval operations for the United Kingdom. But you know what the heck? We'll err on the side of stupidity and we'll bomb you anyway.
Yeah, I think it's a clear departure from the last president who, without any action, allowed ISIL to run wild through the region.
So in other words, two wrongs make a right. I see. That makes sense.
And that's not what I'm saying at all.
Well, that's what you just said. You're saying that even though it didn't make sense, it made sense because Obama was weak. I think that toughness isn't always exemplified by the willingness to fire Tomahawk missiles from a bomber.
I agree with that. There's also not evidence of a...
Yeah, I use the bombers when you need them and on the right target. But why would you blow up things in Syria when the guy is winning and has almost defeated the worst people on the planet?
I think it's an obligation of the United States to enforce rules of the Geneva Convention and using chemical weapons.
Well, so do I. And I think the Geneva Convention prohibits bombing sovereign nations that didn't attack you. Thank you for the call. Yeah, I believe in the Geneva Convention. I also believe in what's fair. And I would say a rule of the Geneva Convention is don't bomb nations that aren't threatening you. That's all. What kind of Geneva Convention? Do I have to play that soundbite again? I guess I should. Here is the Chief of Naval Operations, the former Chief of Naval Operations, for Britain, for God's sakes. Listen to him again in number 3 on the Savage Nation.
President Assad is in the process of winning this civil war, and there, just before he goes in and takes it all over, apparently he decides to have a chemical attack. It just doesn't ring true. It seems extraordinary because clearly he would know that there's likely to be a response from the Allies. What benefit was there militarily in doing what he did? I find that extraordinary. We know that in the past some of the Islamic groups have used chemicals, and of course there would be huge benefit in them labelling an attack as coming from Assad. They would guess quite rightly that there'd be a response from the US, as there was last time, and possibly from the UK and France.
Given that we're in an information war with Russia on so many fronts, do you think perhaps it's inadvisable to be stating this so publicly, given your position and your profile. Isn't there a danger that you're muddying the waters?
Okay. Yeah, let's face it.
Isn't there a danger you're muddying the waters by telling the truth? This is what the BBC is. An around-the-clock propaganda machine. Just like our media. Around-the-clock propaganda machines. It's a miracle that I'm allowed to tell you the truth on this show. And don't think it's going to go on forever. Rosenstein tells President. That's the new buzzword is Rosenstein. The word Rosenstein is taken over from many, many other words that were on the lips of the extreme right. And I'm sure Rosenstein is a horrible human being. I don't know who he is. I don't know what he did. I know he's bad. I know he's a sneak. I know he's dangerous. I know he's out to get Trump. He's a horrible man. He works with Mueller. But if you think about it, the word Rosenstein, just like the name, it's taken over for like the Bilderbergers. Bilderberg. Used to be Bilderberg was bad. Now Rosenstein is bad. There's a few other names that's taking over. Rosenstein is now the boogeyman for the extreme right. Now, maybe he's a horrible human being. I never met the guy, but I know he's evil because everyone told me he's evil. Wherever you turn, Rosenstein this, Rosenstein that. He's the bad guy. He did this. He did that. Senate bucks Mitch moves for Mueller. They're going to protect Mueller. Mueller. God, when is this going to be over? When is this dog and pony show going to end? Can this drama please end? Can I please get back to my country? Can I have my country back, please? Stop it already with this mass hysteria. Day and night and night and day from drugs, stoned out actors sounding like bullying maniacs on drugs with postmenopausal collapses. To people who eat too little pasta on the wrong diets, please give me a break. What are the mass hysterias of our time? WABC, Lisa, chime in on that one. What do you think is another mass hysteria of our time?
Dr. Savage. Hello?
Yes. Yes, what's the mass... You know, I feel like having an appendicitis attack. Lisa, please, what is the mass hysteria that you called about?
Well, I have a whole list of things that I'd love to talk about. However, it's racism. That's what the man told me I should talk about, and I will.
Well, he told you what to say, or you told him what you were going to say, and he said, yes, talk about that one?
He wanted to know what I had on my list, so I read my list off to him. And
Is there any chance you could talk without the speakerphone on because you're breaking up every 2 seconds?
I don't have it. I don't have it on. I'm on my cell phone.
All right, so let's start again. You believe, as I said, what's the biggest hysterias of our time? So you're saying that America's a racist nation? Is that a hysteria?
Yes, it is. It's not the greatest one, but I do.
So what is the greatest one? What is the greatest one?
You talk about every day is the extreme left, what they're doing to our country, our friggin' country that we fought for. And
yeah, but that's an hysteria? I mean, I'm talking about a specific, Lisa. I would say racism and the notion that there's a thing called white privilege is an absolute hysteria. And by the way, one of the most racist things you could say to a person is that there is white privilege. That is probably the most racist thing you could say about an entire race. When you consider how many people are poor who are white, who are killing themselves all day long with 1-2 jobs and going to school. You know, white racism. That's what's helping the kid work 3 jobs. That's the biggest lie that there is. No question about that. Larry on WABC line 4. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Michael, I'm going to shift to the hysteria. I'm going to catch you by surprise because you're not going to be able to expect this, but the biggest hysteria of our time and going back is the notion that homosexuality, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a pure choice. Because
yeah, but you're not going to draw me into this subject and try to destroy my career. So have a nice try. Go call Howard Stern again and see if you could pull him into it. See if Dabba Dabba Doo will take the bait, because I'm not taking the bait on that one. Okay? Third rail of radio. Not doing it. I can't even read the name. Sexual dysphoria. Okay, WABC, Dawn, line 6. What's your topic? Line 5, rather. KSFO, sexual dysphoria. Please tell us what you think. What is this when no one's there, Jim? Can you please jog them? Tom, talk. Not there. Boom. See, this is what happens. I'm not micromanaging properly. I'm not getting angry anymore and screaming. You know what? If they're not there, they're not there. They don't want to talk and there's dead air. Dead air. If I don't get my ads in front of me, I won't read the ads. If there's a break in the show and everything sounds like it's falling apart, so be it. I can't control everything. I can only do my job, which is use my brain and talk. That's all. The rest is up to everyone else. So now let's take some calls. We'll see if they're even there. I can't even read that one. Don on WABC line 6. You're on the radio. A blanker. Okay, this is a national show like this you couldn't get anywhere else. A crackerjack team on calling, on everything else. You couldn't find this if you try to create this, orchestrating it on a television set. Online, DeLeo, line 9. What's on your mind? Go ahead, please.
Michael, I've listened to you for years now. I'm calling from Canada, Ontario, Canada. Some callers ago, you were saying that the guy was making assumptions about Syria. Aren't you also making assumptions that there was no chemical attack, Michael? I mean, how do you...
I am. Well, hold on. Yes, you're absolutely right, but my assumption is based upon some very good evidence, including the former chief of naval operations for for Britain. Wouldn't you say he's a fairly knowledgeable individual?
Yes, of course, but Michael...
All right, so I'm trying to draw my conclusions based upon common sense, based upon reasoning, and based upon evidence. Yes, I am making an assumption based upon those facts.
He's done it before. Why wouldn't he do it again? Can you...
When did he do it? Tell me when he did it before.
He's done it before.
I said when. When did Assad gas his people before?
I believe it was 2 years ago or a year ago.
Oh, you mean when Donald Trump launched missiles at him based upon false evidence at that time?
So another assumption on your part.
No, it's another assumption on your part that there was an evidence that he was gassing his own people. That was never proven. As a matter of fact, Leo, I'm sorry to break the bad news to you, but the UN has been trying to find proof for over a year, and no one can find any proof.
Okay.
So you got to watch out for propaganda, DeLeo, and you got to understand that there's an awful lot of lies out there, and it's very hard to know the truth, especially when we the people are just schmucks to them. We're the schmucky people. All we see are the shadows on the wall, and we're trying to believe, yeah, go bomb everybody now based upon false assumptions. I am a conservative who believes in peace, not war. I'm a conservative who believes in negotiation, not annihilation. I am a conservative who believes in evidence, not hearsay evidence. I am Michael Savage. And that's what separates me from those hysterics out there who are saying, bomb him, bomb him, bomb him, bomb everybody. Yeah, it sent the message to Iran and Russia. Yeah, show them what they mean. Bomb Moscow when you're at it. Yeah, foaming at the mouth. Bomb Moscow. Throw some at Moscow, too. And while you're at it, bomb China. Bomb China. Sitting there stinking chairs in the media telling you to throw bombs. They should be thrown off the air for a thing like that. These warmonger neocon phonies. All part of the cartel. Every cartel member wants war. Every last one of these cartel members are controlled by somebody else. Make no mistake about it. Every one of them is part of a cartel of hatred and lies. That's my opinion, based upon evidence, not based upon opinion. Now, what would you like to talk about? What are the hysterias of our time? Steve on TMA in South Carolina, give us an example of a hysteria of our time.
I think the biggest hysteria of our time is that Putin is trying to expand the former Soviet Union, and they're blaming him on what is going on in Ukraine.
I agree 1,000%. This started with Hillary Clinton to get everyone off her Uranium One scandal, to get her off the Clinton Foundation billions that were stolen. And she started the big lie that Putin is the new Hitler of our time. She did it to deflect from her own evils. I recognize that from having studied this for the last number of years, and also blaming Russia for every problem in the world right now. I've never seen anything as insane as this.
Yes, Dr. Savage.
And a lot of the people in the media come from the era of Reagan, and they're still stuck in the Cold War mentality. And they still think that ex-KGB wants to expand Russia into the old Soviet Union. Well, that's probably true, by the way. But let me ask you something. Tell me what our business is with regard to the expansion of Russia. Tell me why we should care about that. Don't we have our own problems here with Mexico overrunning America? Don't we have our own problems here with people unemployed? Don't we have our own problems here with an inflation that's raging out of control, that's going to leave the country bankrupt? I think we have a real number of problems to worry about on our southern border without sticking our nose into Ukraine, personally. And by the same token as saying we have a right to bomb Syria because they're a proxy state of Russia, well, someone could say they have a right to bomb New York because the United States is a proxy state of imperialism. You could bring up that argument, that we're an imperialist nation, we have no right to exist, and we're expanding too quickly, and We're putting weapons in too many hands, so therefore bomb New York. It's the same mentality as saying bomb Syria because you don't like Russia. We have a big problem on our southern border, and we needed a wall, and that's why we elected Donald Trump. There is no wall. Nothing. We didn't even get a fly zapper. We wanted a wall. You know, we didn't even get a mosquito killer on the border. Something goes zzz at night with purple light. We didn't even get that for our money. So now we're worried about bombing Syria. All I can tell you is the manufacturers got a pretty good day out of that one. Their new weapons worked. Those shiny new missiles worked. And like Guernica, we know that the weapons work. We had a practice run over Syria. Nice practice run for the U.S. Air Force. And they found out that the new missiles made by whoever made them worked real well. The targets were perfectly targeted. And they made a pinpoint raid, and now we know we can buy more of them at $1.2 million apiece. Probably ordered another 200 of them. Back in a minute.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Ladies and gentlemen, sure you could have harsh treatments to look younger, but why on earth would you do that? Listen to Joanne from Connecticut. She says, my husband looks 10 years younger using Genucel. He saw results the first day he used it. I've also had remarkable results, can't be without it. Imagine the bags and puffiness under your eyes gone, and watch those sagging, droopy eyelids disappear. That's years off your appearance. Genucel by Chamonix is an easy choice. Genucel contains natural ingredients for incredible results safely and quickly. It's as simple as that. In fact, with immediate effects, you will see results like Joanne's in as little as 12 hours, or you get your money back guaranteed. And right now, perfect time, try Chamonix's brand new Genucel Eyelid Lift for droopy, sagging eyelids. You order Genucel today, and you get the brand new Genucel Eyelid Lift absolutely free. So go to Genucel.com. That's Genucel.com or 800-SKIN-891. 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 Call now. Express shipping also free. Go ahead. 800-SKIN-891. 800-SKIN-891. Or go to Genucel.com. That's Genucel.com. Hey, I've got some exciting news about Simply Safe. You know they're a home security company that I've worked with since they began. And I've watched them transform, really, into the fastest growing home security company in the nation. They're growing like crazy, protecting over 2 million people, like you. Well, they just released their brand new home security system, the all-new Simply Safe, completely rebuilt, redesigned, with new safeguards to protect against power outages, down Wi-Fi, cut lines, bats, hammers, everything in between. The all-new Simply Safe was redesigned to be practically invisible with powerful sensors that are so small you won't notice them, but you know who will? The intruders, and they'll stay away. And that's what's truly remarkable to me. Simply Safe spent years building this system, and they added so much, but you get the same fair and honest price, 24/7 protection for only $15 a month. No contract. Smaller, faster, stronger than anything they built before. Smaller, faster, stronger. Please go to simplysafesavage.com now to order. That's a website just for my listeners. simplysafesavage.com, so you can protect your home and family today. simplysafesavage.com. Now, before this hour ends, I will repeat again what I found only an hour before the show. I also found during the show that I will be meeting with the highest level of government when I am in Washington. And as you can expect, I will speak quietly, but I will tell them what I really think. If they ask me what I think on certain issues, I doubt that they're going to ask me my ideas. It's more of it's something else. Let's put it to you that way. And the French dinner is the first state dinner. That's going to be an amazing thing for me to witness because it's a part of the American experience, actually, to be in the White House during a state function like that. And coming from the Bronx, where I eat peanut butter and jelly, and where I currently still eat my lunches out of boxes from Chinese restaurants, it's a big deal to me. I also told you in the last hour that I got the number of books sold of the God book in all formats was 80,000, with no promotion. No promotion other than this show. I think it was on the Drudge Report for a day, and it was. Other than that, nobody would touch me. They'll have hookers on, pimps, murderers, ISIS members, prostitutes, every despicable human being on earth, but because of the iron fist of certain people who do not want competition, and moreover don't want the word God said on the network. You've never seen me on any show, have you? Outside of this show. It still sold 80,000 in its first edition. So I just got this from the guy who does my palm reading. Believe it or not, Dr. Savage, according to the book's chart, I predicted God, Faith, and Reason will over time be your best-selling work ever. Thank you, Vernon. I appreciate that. I don't know if it'll be my best-selling book, nor is that a judgment as to whether or not a book is valid. I mean, there are books that outsell that book that are garbage, pure trash. So pure numbers don't mean anything unto themselves. I began as a writer. To me, if I would have sold 20,000 hardcover, I would have considered it a major victory for a book that nobody wanted to publish, except it was published, and it found an audience. And I told you I'm working on a sequel based upon my dearly departed great-grandfather, who I never met, in the old country. Got a picture of him only last Saturday, and it triggered something in me where I started to speak to him, and he's speaking to me. And I did a little bit of it yesterday on the show. And today I'm almost continuing it by asking you what topics you want me to talk about. And then I asked you another leading question for the show today, which was, what are the hysterias of our time? To me, the number one hysteria is the hatred of Trump, based upon a fraudulent hypothesis that is yet to be proven. And I thought that in America you were innocent until proven guilty. How do you like that? How many times have we been told about the poor black people in prison who were really innocent, and there was a rush to judgment, and they were put in prison and charged with crimes they didn't commit? And I'm sure in many cases it turns out that it was truly based upon racism. Well, that's an example of what's going on with Donald Trump. I know you say that's quite a stretch. No, it's not quite a stretch. In America, we are innocent until proven guilty. But because of the hydrophobia, the rabies of those in the media, Donald Trump has been condemned, convicted, and almost hung in the public square. And thus far, Mueller has produced not a shred of evidence to indicate there was any collusion with Russia in the election. Almost zero evidence, and we would have seen it by now. And because Mueller could not nail him to a cross and crucify him on the false narrative that he colluded with a foreign power to steal the election from the witch, they have now gone and indicted his lawyer and raided his lawyer's office to try to nail his lawyer to a cross on the Appian Way. And only when they've put enough people on the Appian Way and hung them by crosses will they finally go after Jesus himself. I know the analogy doesn't hold and Trump isn't Jesus, but it's a pretty good analogy for what's going on in these insane, hysterical times where you even see aging actors who have hormonal imbalances, who were once known as raging bulls, who have become nothing but bullying fools, saying they want to lock him up for no crime whatsoever other than pure, unadulterated jealousy on the part of these old actors. This is the Savage Nation. Another hour coming up. Be here.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282.
The hysteria that Trump colluded with Russia is the number one hysteria. But there are many others in our mad nation, promulgated by those who sell tabloid newspapers and television shows to keep you listening. They create hysterias to glue you to the screens and make you buy their publications. But it doesn't make them real. So I've asked you, what are the hysterias of our time? Here's some new headlines that just came out. MS-13 directs members to take out a cop. And here we have the mayor of Oakland, the governor of California, protecting and sheltering gang members who are absolutely here to do harm to us as citizens, and, of course, to the police, who are their only main target. We just learned that Rudy Giuliani may be joining Trump's legal team. Okay. Rudy Giuliani has had discussions about signing on, according to the Daily Beast. Source told the website that, I don't believe the Daily Beast. It's run by someone who's a Trump hater. B-15 follow right there, John Dalbo, Julie Staunch, I don't know. Is he going to join? How do we know? It's a rumor put out by the Daily Beast, which is owned by a bestial man. A bestial man owns the Daily Beast. So I don't. Rosenstein to Trump, you're not a Mueller target right now. Okay, Rosenstein, very nice. But you mean you may make him a target soon if you can invent some evidence? Like Mr. Beria? Find me the man and I'll show you the crime. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein told President Trump last week that he wasn't at this point a target of Mueller's investigation into Russian election meddling. Okay, so what does that mean? So what are they breaking his behind? What are they doing this to him for? What are they running him through the mill? What are they doing from this guy, breaking his knuckles every day? We have a nation to run. We have national enemies. We got a border that's being overrun, and they're killing the president here. So, I mean, I really do think he should throw this bum out. It's enough. This guy Rosenstein, you could put all the jokes aside. Of course he's afraid to remove him because you know what they'll scream. Every word on everything you could imagine under the sun, including anti-Semitism. You know what's going to come from Rosenstein. Suddenly, sacred cow Rosenstein. Rosenstein made his name in the investigations of organized crime. Now, unless you actually believe that there's an organized criminal enterprise running America, Rosenstein should never have been added to Mueller's team. So I don't think that Rosenstein is a necessary element of this hysteria that we're going through in this country. In fact, I think it's disturbing most Americans to put up with this garbage anymore. You can laugh at it all you want, but it's really stopping the progress of this nation and putting us all at risk. I think that Mueller and Rosenstein are putting our children at risk. I think Mueller and Rosenstein are bad for the environment because we're not talking about the environment. I think Mueller and Rosenstein are very bad for the animals that are being slaughtered in Africa because we're not talking about the slaughter of the elephants and the lions and the rhinos because of Rosenstein and Mueller. They have sucked the oxygen out of our brains into this nonsense when there are genuinely severe problems on the planet. So Rosenstein and Mueller are bad for the environment, they're bad for wildlife, they're bad for the air, because these topics are what we might be talking about, was it not for Rosenstein and Mueller. You think it's a joke, don't you? Think I'm being facetious? I'm not. Rosenstein and Mueller are bad for the environment, they're bad for children, and they're bad for animals. Now let's take the callers on the Savage Nation. Jason on WCFO in Georgia, if he's still there. Jim, is he still there before I hit a blank? Don't know. Okay. Jason not there. No one's there. Scott on WVFT in Florida. Line 3, you're on the Savage Nation. Go ahead, please.
Michael, I've heard you talk about this and not anybody talk about this. One of the myths that I see is that anything a doctor gives you is supposed to be good for you. We are poisoning our children. These kids, when they have one kind of behavior, are brought in these doctors' office, and these doctors are prescribing them poison. And
most pediatricians are well-meaning quacks, and they're drug peddlers. They're more to be feared than a drug dealer on the corner.
Michael,
you bring a child in who shows any signs of creativity or super intelligence, they put him on a pill to reduce the intelligence and creativity. In about 3 minutes, they got him on a pill to reduce the intelligence of the child.
Michael,
they put the child in a mental straitjacket.
I'm a law enforcement officer here. I deal with these kids every day, cutting themselves, thinking suicidal thoughts. Commonality, they're all on these medications. The biggest drug dealers isn't the cartels, it's not the gangs, it's the pharmaceutical industry who are using these middlemen doctors to peddle dope.
That's right. The stethoscope. Yeah, the stethoscope instead of the 9mm, they got a stethoscope.
Yeah, they've addicted our nation on opiates, and then they try to make laws then to not give them after they've addicted them all. And I can't tell you how many people I take to jail are now using methamphetamine, heroin.
Right.
We're normal.
Listen, I know. I've written about this for almost 30 years. They are destroying our children. Most particularly the exceptional children are the ones being most damaged by the drug peddlers. And as again I say, the pediatricians, the bling that they wear is the stethoscope. That's the bling that they wear to lead you to believe they know what they're talking about. Many of them are on the payroll of the pharmaceutical firms. These drugs are so toxic to the young developing mind that the child, after they are put on these drugs in childhood, then go out into the illicit market and get drugs because they need to continue to feed the drug habit that was induced in them when they were little children, put on drugs for ADD, ADHD. Some of these conditions are real, some of them are not real, and some nations don't even recognize them as real ailments in the great numbers that we do here in America, where everyone is overdiagnosed and overprescribed. I thank you for that observation. Yes, it is a hysteria, a clear and present danger to our future as a nation. Jason You're up on CFO from Georgia, line 8. What's your topic, please?
Thank you for having me on, Dr. Savage. I believe President Trump's decision to strike Syria was directly related to collusion with Russia, and I will tell you why. President Trump is a very smart man, we know that. And just like you, I was really upset that he struck Syria. But if you look at the strike, it was a precision strike. There's been no major retaliation from Russia. 2/3 of the missiles were shot down by Syrian forces. So what that leads me to believe is that Trump colluded with Putin basically to throw the global ball.
Wait, I'm sorry. To colluded with Putin to throw what?
To throw the globalists off his back, to give the war hawks something they wanted. And basically, this is, with his relationship with Vince McMahon, a whole WWE tactic where Trump and Putin are working together as a deception to throw everybody off.
Wow, we brought in wrestling now. Wow, that's a gigantic idea there. That somehow it's related to wrestling. I get it. I mean, strategically is what you're arguing. That it's all like a wrestling match, in other words.
Exactly. And if you look at Theresa May before the...
I got scared for a minute. I thought you were going to bring in Mother Teresa, not Theresa May.
No, not the other Teresa, the other saint.
So what does Theresa May have to do with this puzzle? Go ahead.
Well, okay, so you have to understand, Theresa May, prior to the strikes,
she said there's the day before she said there's no evidence that Assad used chemical weapons. The day of the bombing, she said there was evidence. She made it up. I know that.
So, but she's telling everybody before the strikes, I'm not doing anything. But then, conveniently enough, both her and Macron backed the U.S. strike. So what tells me is they're all in on this together because they know the bigger picture is having to deal with the globalists who would like to see nothing better than the U.S. and the Russians beat each other up and leave China as the sole superpower in the world.
We do know that there was a changing of philosophies and the administration within a short period of time, and the leader of it was Mustachio Bolton. Once he appeared, the world fell apart on us. He is a neocon. He represents the worst instincts in American government. He is a throwback to the Reagan era, where everybody was a threat to the United States and everybody was a target of the United States. Unfortunately, there are many people stuck in the Cold War mentality where Russia is the boogeyman, America is always right, and that we must bomb them into submission without evidence. This is so dangerous for the times that we are living in. Unfortunately, those people are ensconced, and the neocon wing has almost taken over this administration. And, one further piece of evidence, right after the strikes, we read that the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mattis, argued with the president, wanting to go before Congress for authorization. You saw that, didn't you?
Yes.
So even the military was reluctant to launch these missiles. In fact, when they gave their speech, they looked like captives to me. The generals who gave the speech looked like captive men who were on a chain forced to say what they said.
Well, Michael...
Anyway, that's my opinion. It's one man's observation, one man's opinion. And the fact of the matter is, I pray to God that he's come to his senses now and realizes that maybe he was lied to by Mustachio. And I will make a prediction on this show. I hope I'm right. My prediction is that Donald Trump, once he shakes off these gangsters, Mueller and Rosenstein and the others, once he breaks free of the prison that they're trying to put him in through their lies and deceit and hanging him in the public, when he gets control all over again and he has the time to focus on the bigger issues and not be distracted by them, he will get rid of the Mustachio. Bolton won't be there more than 6 months. He'll realize he's been misled. And Bolton will have to go back to the outside of the buffet line. I'll be back in a minute.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. The superfoods of the world. There's so much I can tell you about it, but let me just tell you about nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is one of the most important molecules in your body. It promotes healthy circulation, which gets the oxygen and nutrients flowing throughout your body, and it helps support healthy blood pressure. And you can help your body produce nitric oxide naturally by drinking Super Beets. Only Super Beets is made from beets grown to exacting standards, and the nutrients in the beets are concentrated in a way that makes them usable to the body to create nitric oxide safely and naturally. If you want to increase your body's nitric oxide levels, and you should, believe me, simply call 800-481-0504, 800-481-0504, or go to SavageLovesBeats.com. And listen to me. With your first Super Beets order, get another 30-day supply for free, plus free indicator strips to see how Super Beets actually work in your body, and free shipping. You can't beat it. Try it. 800-481-0504, 800-481-0504, or go to SavageLovesBeats.com. Trump evangelical support at record high, says a legitimate poll. Trump's evangelical support is at a record high, according to a poll by the Public Religion Research Institute, with 75% of white evangelical respondents holding a favorable view of him versus 22% unfavorable. Now, the evangelicals' favorable numbers far exceed the general population's 42% favorable view of President Trump. This is an increasing number, by the way. Over the years, Trump's support among white evangelicals has increased steadily, jumping to 61% by the early fall of 2016 and 68% after his inauguration. I think it's an interesting fact. Now, how was the poll done? The poll was conducted in a bilingual series of phone interviews with 2,020 American adults from March 14th to 25th, according to The Hill. I don't like when I hear American adults. I would like to hear American voters, not adults. So all polls are flawed. You know that. The poll also found that looking ahead to 2020, white evangelical Protestants who identify with the Republican Party said they would prefer to have Trump as president rather than another candidate. So don't buy the lie that Wolf Blitzer and company are putting out, and that he's finished and he's this and he's that. The propaganda and the hysteria against Donald Trump is at a fever pitch. I've never seen anything like it. Obama had a free hand to do anything he wished, and even the ACLU said that Obama had created the greatest surveillance state in the history of the world. That was swept under the rug by all of the prognosticators in the media. Again, the phone number here is 855-400-7282. Rosenstein says president not a target in probe of Attorney Cohen. So now they've shifted from Trump to Cohen. Now they want to burn somebody, so they'll burn his lawyer. Show me the man and I'll show you the crime, huh, Rosenstein? You're very proud of that, of Beria's track record. Rudy checks in, former New York City mayor, U.S. Attorney Giuliani joins Trump's legal team. All right, that's good. We'll see where that leads. I hope he can do the job. Cuomo claims he's undocumented and challenges officials to deport him. He's getting crazier than the actor. Is he having coffee in the same cafes as Robert De Niro? Cuomo says he's undocumented and he challenges officials to deport him. This is what's passing now for the governor of a major state. I got to see this story. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, New York City native, raised eyebrows last week after he claimed that he was an illegal immigrant and taunted officials to deport him. During the bizarre speech, the New York governor criticized the extreme conservative movement for being anti-immigrant. He said his family who emigrated to the U.S. from Italy was constantly ridiculed with a racial slur that he said meant without papers. So, what does that have to do with you, Andrew? I don't understand this. We all know you came from poor Italian Americans. Good for you and good for them. But what is it about them that is not the same about those who are now invading the country, Andrew? Can you figure that out? Can you figure out the difference between your ancestors and these? There was no welfare state waiting for them, Andrew. The people are sick of it. They're going broke. Too much of the public purse is being poured into the pockets of the illegal aliens. A day earlier, Cuomo addressed a group of union workers and said he was raised by poor immigrants from South Jamaica. His father, Mario, a three-term governor of New York, was born in Queens to Italian immigrant parents. God bless them. His mother, Matilda, was also born in Queens. Good for them. What does it have to do with this, though? Nothing. He's just pandering to the illegal aliens because they are his base. And how anybody in California who pays taxes could ever vote for a Democrat again is beyond me. Same in New York. Same exact thing. But I made my point. You can get these points anywhere. There's no point in my beating it up. The big news is Rudy to the rescue. Giuliani joins Trump legal team. I don't know if that's going to make a big difference. I don't know if Rudy still has the juice. I really don't know if Judy still has... Judy still has the ruse. Does Judy still have the ruse? I don't know that. I know Rudy may have the juice, but Judy may not have the ruse. And I don't mean the Charlotte ruse. In that, I think he needs a young Turk in there, a firebrand, a fire-breathing lawyer who will tear the suits off these guys who are making a mockery of the legal system. Is Rudy up to the job? I sure hope so. I back him 100%. And maybe I'll see him next week and I'll have a plate of pasta with him when I'm in New York. Does anyone know a good Italian restaurant in Washington, D.C.? Or is there any good food in the city or not? No one even goes there to eat, right?
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Do you have trouble sleeping like most people do? I'm here to change your sleeping patterns forever. I, myself, have never slept better since I started using MyPillow. I would toss and turn all night and never feel fully rested, but that's all changed once I discovered MyPillow the way I like it. MyPillow uses a patented technology that morphs perfectly to the type of sleeper you are. You create the pillow that's right for you, right on their own website. It's amazing, and of course it's all manufactured right here in the United States and comes with a 10-year warranty. You can wash and dry MyPillow, and the best part is you get a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. I want you to go to MyPillow.com or call 800-768-0898, promo code SAVAGE. Take advantage of my special 4-pack deal. Buy 2 premium MyPillows, and you're going to get 2 Go-Anywhere pillows for free. Rush to MyPillow.com or call 800-768-0898, promo code SAVAGE, to take advantage of my special 4-pack deal.
Find out everything you need to know about your favorite radio station.
Nikki Haley. Well, you may not know who she is. She's the loudmouth warmonger who's our ambassador to the UN. It turns out her deputy ambassador led the Never Trump movement, and that he launched Zuckerberg's Open Borders group. You talk about the enemy within. Huh? If that's not enough for you, Governor Cuomo in New York, you know that guy. He just announced an executive order to allow parolees the right to vote in New York after meeting with none other than the gutter rat, Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton came out of the meeting with the wonderful governor and said, "We got one executive order, and it's not even lunchtime yet," boasted Sharpton. "Who knows? We may have a presidential candidate. You all stay tuned." Isn't that great to see that this gutter rat, Al Sharpton, is now trying to promote Cuomo for the presidency? Unbelievable to me. If that's not enough for you to show you how vile the left has become, an Arab professor at Fresno State calls Barbara Bush an amazing racist. Oh, really? And she boasted and says, "I make $100,000 a year. I'm a tenured professor, and I'm a Muslim American, and I will never be fired." Isn't that wonderful to see who Jerry Brown lets teach in the California universities? Once great universities, now infested with human haters like this? Wait, it gets even better. And he invited me to Washington. I remember going into the congressional dining room distinctly to this day, having lunch. It was very exciting for me. Remember that. You may take it for granted and say, what's the big deal? It's a very big deal for me, coming from my background, to be in a dining room. So the long and short was I was then invited to a meeting with the congressional leader at the time, who I do not remember. And he had a meeting in front of me and maybe 1 or 2 other talk shows. I don't remember. And he was giving them a pep talk, all the congressmen. And here's what he said to them. He said, "Listen to me, boys. You either do what we want you to do, and you either vote the way we want you to vote, or you're going to be thrown out, and it's very cold outside. That's all I can tell you." I never forgot that. So you should know that politics is not easy for a lot of these people, and that you lose a lot of your independence unless you're at the top of the pyramid, whether it's in Congress, as a congressman, or in the Senate. You're just going to lose a lot of your independence. Look what happened to that comedian who was retired from Saturday Night Live. He became a stooge, a yes man. There's much more freedom for commentators than there is for politicians. So it's very easy for us to sit here and put them down, but it doesn't mean that they're devoid of integrity. It means they're locked in a system where they cannot express themselves as freely as we can, for example, in the media. If you were to list the top 5 hysterias of our time, what would they be? I mean, I can name two of them. The mass hysteria that marijuana is good for you. The mass hysteria that Donald Trump is the devil incarnate. What are the other mass hysterias of our time that you think are worthy of noting? Because it's a topic that's become of some interest to me. Now, I want to play some sound for you to show you the mass hysteria of fake news. There was a former chief of naval operations in Britain who went on to the communist British, I almost said something else, the British Broadcasting Corporation. I almost didn't say British, I almost said something else. But I'm not a rap artist. The BBC told a former Navy chief not to even question the Syria narrative. Listen to how far the BBC has fallen with regard to fake news in clip 3.
President Assad is in the process of winning this civil war, and there, just before he goes in and takes it all over, apparently he decides to have a chemical attack. It just doesn't ring true. It seems extraordinary because clearly he would know that there's likely to be a response from the Allies. What benefit was there militarily in doing what he did? I find that extraordinary. We know that in the past some of the Islamic groups have used chemicals, and of course there would be huge benefit in them labelling an attack as coming from Assad. They would guess quite rightly that there'd be a response from the US, as there was last time, and possibly from the UK and France.
Given that we're in an information war with Russia on so many fronts, do you think perhaps it's inadvisable to be stating this so publicly, given your position and your profile? Isn't there a danger that you're muddying the waters?
Yeah, let's face it, if he hasn't done it, then that is extremely bad news. You know, if Assad hasn't carried out the attack, and I think it's just worth making that clear.
Did you hear what just went on in this soundbite? You should never forget this. This is Admiral Lord West, former Chief of Naval Services for the nation of Britain. And here's a BBC anchor, some low-life leftist propagandists saying, given that we're in information war with Russia on so many fronts, you think it's inadvisable to be stating this publicly? Isn't there a danger that you're muddying the waters? In other words, we don't want truth on the BBC. We want straight propaganda around the clock. Now, if you think that it's any different here at NBC or CBS or NBC or any of the others, you are mistaken. There is no evidence of chemical weapon attack in Douma from Assad. So far, no one has come up with it, any more than they've come up with any proof that Trump colluded with Russia. They've come up with no proof that Assad himself, meaning his military, launched that chemical attack, or that there was actually a chemical attack. No proof whatsoever. It's a gigantic propaganda show from the New World Order that wants Syria to be struck again and to be taken over and divided up into 3 or 4 portions. Former UK ambassador to Syria, Peter Ford, said, possible we're deluded and suckered by chemical weapons allegations. Democrat Senator Bar Menendez says, I wonder if the Syria strikes were choreographed and a kabuki show. Did you hear what I just said? People are starting to understand that this whole lie about Assad gassing his own people was nothing but a false flag, as I first reported. Here's the question for the listener. What's real news? What's real news? Inside the frantic flight to pull doomed Southwest passenger back in through window. That would be real news. Hero in a cowboy hat. That would be real news. Pilot is a Navy pilot, a woman. That would be real news, correct? So certain things we know are real. The rest we have to discern for ourselves and try to sort and sift through all of the information, if we're even interested, and come to our own conclusions as to what is actually real news. It's becoming a new job. And it's a very hard job that's going to come to backfire on the conservative movement. This whole fake news idea is going to come to destroy the opinion business and the news business if it keeps up. Because the average person doesn't know what's real and what's fake, to be honest with you. Got this. It says, based on a startling new study, it appears that the experiences of your ancestor that lived 14 generations ago are potentially having an effect on your life right now. That's amazing. In the journal Science, very reputable, study of nematode worms, which is the most long-term form of the phenomenon ever discovered in a living animal. Now, of course, the scoffers who only went to high school or lower than that, I'm not a worm. And, of course, you have to explain to them that we derive from the worm in some ways, or we share some of our genome with the worm. What's a genome? All I know is hamburgers and cigars and how to con the public every day. That's what I know. But this study in Science says that the lives of our grandparents do indeed have influences on our own day-to-day behaviors, and that there's now a chance that an ancestor born centuries ago may still be playing a hand in your life. Now, of course, that's assuming that what applies to nematode worms applies to humans, and that's a big if. I understand that. But if you look back at the basic science of this characteristic of biology, you'll find that it may not be so far from reality. And I'm sure that you listening to this show, even if you're a total atheist, if you're educated at all, and you took even one course in science in the 7th grade, you understand that you do come from an ancestor. You could understand, even you, that you have ancestors, and that they may be functional or operational in your consciousness, well, in your subconscious. And so if you tap into them, you don't know where it's going to lead. Every family, no matter who you're from, in every family there are ordinary people. There's probably someone who was a scholar, someone who was a poet, someone who was a genius, someone who was a criminal, someone who wound up in a madhouse, probably an axe murderer, probably a brigand or a criminal somewhere not too far removed in your ancestry, but they're all functional inside your DNA. It's an amazing thing to think about, is that what is it that keeps the average human from going off the rails? You look at the news, and what does the news focus on? The genius? No. The great composers? No. Those who conduct symphonies? No. Those who do ballet? No. What does the newspaper sell? Guy goes into a steakhouse in Harlem, and a bum comes in to panhandle him for money. He says, leave me alone. He stabs him in the back with a steak knife. That's what sells newspapers. So if you read that day and night, and that's what you live on, are the tabloids, the New York Post, all of them are tabloids. What your mind becomes is polluted. It's like a polluted stream. It's like a toxic waste dump. If you were to simply read these newspapers every day, or go online every day to the same news sources, what you're doing is dumping toxic waste into your soul and your mind. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? So sometimes you have to step back. I saw another article that's a little tricky for you to read without misinterpreting me. I saw it in the New York Post this morning, and I jumped on it. Doctor who gave Asperger's syndrome its name was kid killer for Hitler. I said, what? And I read, the Austrian doctor for whom Asperger's syndrome is named helped the Nazis kill disabled children during World War II, according to a study published today. Hans Asperger, a pediatrician who first identified the syndrome in 1944, made good with the Nazis by referring children to one of their notorious euthanasia clinics. Medical University of Vienna medical historian Herwig Czech revealed in the journal Molecular Autism. Nearly 800 children who didn't fit into the Third Reich's criteria of worthy to live, meaning they lacked racial purity and hereditary worthiness, I'm quoting now, died at the Am Spiegelgrund Clinic in Vienna between 1940 and 1945. Asperger frequently referred disabled children to the clinic. Those who had physical or psychological defects, so-called, were deemed undesirable and were killed through starvation or lethal injection, though their cause of death was reported as pneumonia. This is a blockbuster discovery, if it is true. Back on the Savage Nation in a minute.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
The Savage Nation is sponsored by Swiss America, the only company I trust with my financial future. Call 800-289-2646 or SwissAmerica.com. Everyone seems to be warning you about a potential stock market collapse. What if it never comes? What if betting against the market is a bad idea? Truth is, our nation appears to be getting stronger by the day, not weaker. And so what if the market makes a big correction? It always recovers, right? Well, this topic is covered in a very special report from Swiss America. It's called the Crashless Society. In this remarkable free report, you'll discover how to connect the dots and find out about the hidden pluses and minuses of today's rising economic optimism. Get it for free. All you got to do is call 800-289-2646. Are you worried about your retirement account? Stop worrying. Start planning for the best years of your life. Thanks to the Crashless Society, yours free right now by calling 800-289-2646. Write it down. And remember, even during a big correction, Some people seem to do very well. You know how they do it? Call 800-289-2646. Maybe it could be you. Discover how. Get the Crashless Society for free. Call it 800-289-2646. I played you some sound bites that are pretty interesting if you missed them. One was the former chief of naval operations for Britain, Admiral Lord West, who said that it makes no sense for Assad to have gone in and released a chemical attack on his own citizens. He said it doesn't ring true. And astonishingly, the BBC anchor says, given that we're in an information war with Russia, do you think perhaps it's inadvisable to be stating this so publicly, given your position and your profile? Isn't there a danger that you're muddying the waters? If you don't know what propaganda is, you just heard what propaganda is. And if you think the stooges on our networks are any different than that twit on the BBC, you're mistaken. But let's go back to the topics at hand. And if that's not interesting enough for you, there's this other story which is a little weird. Homeland Security accidentally releases records on remote mind control through electronic pulses and what it does to human beings. Forced memory blanking, sudden violent itching inside eyelids, forced manipulation of airways, wildly racing heart without cause, forced muscle quaking of the large muscles on the back, forced nudging of arm during delicate or messy work, causing this sounds crazy to me. Special attention to genital area, itching, forced orgasm, intense pain, hot needles pushed deep into flesh in the legs, hard to reach itch site, top and bottom. You could believe this. You could believe anything. You could blame all your symptoms now that the government's hitting you with psychoelectronic weapons. You know, this is going to feed right into the nuts out there. But it's an interesting article that came out. Truthfully, I think it could be done. I think this is certainly possible. And since I'm going to Washington next week, if I come back twitching and scratching, you'll know that it's true. I accidentally looked on a website and it said Chris Christie official portrait to cost a whopping $85,000. So the natural thought was, is it because of the extra paint that's required around the midsection? Why $85,000 for an official portrait, I wondered. And then I saw some sound bites of Robert De Niro. Man, is this guy getting... His menopausal symptoms are just getting worse. Or is there something he can take? Isn't there something this guy can take? I never knew he was like this. Robert De Niro used to be sort of a movie star hero. He's gone from a raging bull to a bullying fool. In the following flashback, he's doing a film festival in New York that used to be somewhat of a respectable film festival. And now he goes crazy again with the symptoms of menopause. There is male menopause, by the way. And somebody ought to tell him there's treatment for these conditions today, that he doesn't have to suffer through this. There are treatments for this kind of condition for male menopause. Robert, you don't have to suffer like this. Listen to 09.
Well, I was talking to Lorne, and he said if there's anything you want to, anything you can think about that you play. I said, well, she said, so I spoke to my wife, and she said, why don't you play Mueller? I told her, Mueller, how about Mueller? And that's how it came down.
Is this going to become a recurring thing, or is this a one and done?
I don't know. I hope there's a couple where I interrogate him, then I arrest him, and then I escort him to jail.
You mean Trump?
Yeah, who do you think I mean?
Well, I don't know. I'm just making sure.
No, not Cohen. Him too, but okay. Trump definitely, yes. Can I make it any clearer?
Yeah, no.
That's very good. There's NBC again, letting this poor old man who's showing signs of presenile dementia, in my estimation. It's a madness that's probably generated a lot by aging hormones, which a lot of female hormones are probably overtaking the male hormones in him to make him think like that. That would be my analysis. He sounds like an hysterical old woman. Wants to arrest Trump, wants to lock Trump up. You know, when an actor has political views, it's nice for them to keep them to themselves, since we only want them to fake their lives on stage and on screen. But it's every day now. This is astounding, but this is what's going on. It's one of the hysterias of our time, and I don't see things as terrible as Robert De Niro does. I think that's a form of hysteria. In fact, I know it's a form of hysteria. It's a madness. So, as I say, he's gone from a raging bull to a bullying fool, but that's not what I wanted to talk about. This caught me by surprise as well. De Blasio, the commie mayor of New York City. He secretly is building a homeless shelter on Billionaires Row near 57th Street. And you say, well, good, let's screw the billionaires. Well, don't be so quick to judge, because angry residents and shopkeepers and restaurant owners booed and whined about putting these bums in their neighborhood.
Savage.